Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. So we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm your host, Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. Now, today we're going to be talking about what happened to former five-star quarterback prospect JT Daniels. 2 weeks ago, he transferred from West Virginia to Rice. This is his fourth stop in his college career, his fourth different school. And I'm going to go over what led to the downward turn in JT Daniels' college career and whether I think JT Daniels can break out of it and maybe eventually become an NFL quarterback. Now, as everyone well remembers, JT Daniels was a former five-star recruit, and he was ranked as the #1 overall prospect in his recruiting class of 2019. But he decided that he was going to reclassify and go to USC a year earlier in the 2018 class. And I'm not saying that's what began the problems for JT Daniels, but historically, reclassifying is not always the smartest thing. You need to play all 4 years of your high school career to gain all the experience that you can get to be able to go to college and be ready and not be shell-shocked once you're in college, where you're going to have to compete at a level that maybe you weren't ready and prepared for. And I think for JT Daniels, this might have been mistake number one. I think he should have stayed in high school for his fourth year, and I don't think he should have reclassified, but he did. And he went to USC. And when JT Daniels arrived at USC in 2018, he was immediately given the starting job. He won the quarterback competition in camp, and he had a decent season, having 14 touchdowns and 10 interceptions and 2,672 yards, and USC went 5-7. And even though JT Daniels was so highly coveted, I don't know if it was the best thing for him to start his college career as a freshman playing at USC with all those high expectations. I'm not saying, again, that that's what derailed his career, but it's always tough to start as a true freshman because outside of a very small amount of players, most of the time it takes a player a couple of years to gain his footing in college before he's ready to play at the quarterback position. But USC, they needed him to play in his first year, and he did, and he wasn't terrible. He had a pretty decent year. He would have liked to have had more touchdowns and less interceptions, but still JT Daniels had a solid first season of his career. And in 2019, JT Daniels won the starting job again at USC in his second season in college, but unfortunately for JT Daniels, in the season opener, he tore his ACL, and he had a pretty decent game against Fresno State. He threw for 250 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. But that really hurt JT Daniels because he was really maybe starting to find his footing at USC. He might have had a really solid career at USC, and he would have never transferred in the first place. But unfortunately for JT Daniels, he tore his ACL. That really set him back. It really set back his development. And plus, Keaton Slovis stepped up for USC, and JT Daniels probably thought that he had no shot of winning the starting job again. So JT Daniels decided to enter the transfer portal for the first time. And if he hadn't tore his ACL, he probably would have never entered the transfer portal, and he would have at least had more stability staying at USC the whole time instead of ever entering the portal. But for the 2020 season, JT Daniels decided to transfer to the University of Georgia. A lot of people thought this was potentially a great move for JT Daniels, that he would be at a great program, and he would have been able to regain his footing and show everybody why he was the #1 prospect in the 2019 recruiting class. But he did not win the job outright. He competed with several quarterbacks at Georgia, and he did not win the starting job. But finally, after DeJuan Mathis was struggling and Stetson Bennett ended up getting injured, then JT Daniels finally got the starting job at Georgia, and he had a really solid game against Mississippi State. And a lot of people thought that finally JT Daniels was breaking out. He is showing the college football world that he is ready to break out and show that he was a five-star prospect for a reason. And in that game against Mississippi State, he had the best game of his career, throwing for 401 yards and 4 touchdowns. And he had a solid rest of the season overall. Georgia went 4-0 with him as the starting quarterback, and he threw 10 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So the 2020 year was JT Daniels' best year as a quarterback in college. He had a fantastic season in just those 4 games for Georgia and really showed he had the potential to be a top quarterback. But unfortunately for JT Daniels in the 2021 season, he did win the starting job again over Stetson Bennett, but he got hurt after the Clemson game, and he basically missed most of that season. He did return a couple of times later on in the year, but he just wasn't the same. He was throwing some interceptions. He was just not healthy all year. And Stetson Bennett, he started to gain fanfare, and he started showing, even though that he was a walk-on, that he was a capable quarterback and that he could lead Georgia. So JT Daniels again got benched, and he decided to enter the transfer portal again. And in 2022, JT Daniels decided to transfer to West Virginia. And a lot of people thought this was a good move because JT Daniels would go to a school where he wouldn't really have any pressure of getting benched. He could play in a conference that a lot of the teams aren't as good on defense, and JT Daniels could regain his footing and again show the college football world that he was a capable quarterback. But JT Daniels did struggle at West Virginia. They didn't really protect him very well either, but he struggled all season, and he got benched midseason, and he finally entered the transfer portal again. And now JT Daniels is at Rice, his fourth program in 6 years. This is his last season of college football. And this is his last chance to show that maybe he's a great quarterback and that he can make the NFL. But you look at his statistics. In 2018, again, he threw for 14 touchdowns and 10 interceptions in his true freshman year. And then in 2019, he tore his ACL at USC. And then in 2020 for Georgia, he threw for 10 touchdowns and 2 interceptions once he came in midseason. He played really well. And then for Georgia in 2021, he threw 7 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, but he wasn't healthy and he missed most of the season. And then at West Virginia in 2022, he threw for 13 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. And he's thrown for 45 touchdowns and 25 interceptions in his career in college. Those aren't terrible numbers, but they're definitely a far cry for what people were expecting him to do coming out of high school when he was the number one prospect in the 2019 class. So what happened to JT Daniels? I think that JT Daniels would have had a better career if he hadn't have reclassified, number one. I think if he had stayed in high school all 4 years and not reclassified, he would have been able to gain more experience at the high school level, and I think that that would have really helped him once he went to college. Number two, I don't think that he should have been the starting quarterback in year one at USC. I know that USC had to have him start because of the fact that they were really struggling, and the quarterbacks that they had there were not really capable of winning the job, so they just thrust JT Daniels into the starting role because of the talent that he showed in high school, and I completely understand, but I don't think he should have been the starting quarterback in year one at USC. If he had been behind an experienced quarterback and been able to learn and develop behind that experienced quarterback, maybe he could have come in a year or two later and really shine, but I think him being thrust into the starting role in year one didn't really help either. The torn ACL at USC in 2019 was probably the biggest one, though. If he does not tear his ACL at USC, he probably stays the starting quarterback at USC. We don't know how good of a career he would have had, especially with Clay Helton being the head coach most of the time. And USC was not as good of a program as they are right now with Lincoln Riley. But I think if JT Daniels does not tear his ACL, I think he would have had a really solid career at USC, and he probably would have never transferred anywhere, and he would have had a really good shot to be in the NFL right now and been drafted. But that torn ACL really hurt his career. And then when he transferred to Georgia, I just think that injuries, again, he couldn't stay on the field, he couldn't stay healthy, and he had a lot of competition for the starting job. I think that maybe that made him lose his confidence having to compete with Dwan Mathis and Stetson Bennett and all these other quarterbacks that Georgia had at that time. I think if JT Daniels had been able to go to Georgia, not get hurt, and stayed healthy the whole time, been the starting quarterback, yet again, he might have been able to regain his footing, and he would have been able to show that he was a really solid quarterback. But since he never completely had the starting job all to his own because he kept getting hurt and he got benched for Stetson Bennett, I just really think that hurt his confidence, and it made it where JT Daniels wanted to transfer again. I don't think JT Daniels should have transferred to West Virginia, even though I thought at first it might have been a good place for him to regain his footing. I think that West Virginia, their offensive line wasn't good enough, and there was a lot of teams in the Big 12 that were able to get to JT Daniels. And by this point, JT Daniels' career, I just think he has lost a lot of his confidence, and he just doesn't look like the same quarterback that he used to be. I think that JT Daniels is still a really capable quarterback, and I think the talent's still there. But I just think that all these transfers, that would be my number 4 reason for why JT Daniels' career has not gone the way as everyone thought it would, is because of the fact that he has transferred so many times. He has not been able to really get into his system and be with his teammates and be at a school for 3 or 4 years. He's kept moving, and I don't think that moving around to 3 or 4 schools like this has really benefited JT Daniels' career. So again, to recap, I think the 4 reasons why JT Daniels' career has not gone the way a lot of people thought it would is: number 1, he should have never reclassified. Number 2, I think being thrust into the starting role at USC in 2018 didn't really help his development. Number 3, all the injuries, including especially that ACL injury at USC. And number 4, all the times that he's entered the transfer portal and gone to different teams. And I think you could say that he transferred to some of the wrong teams. I think all those reasons has really hurt JT Daniels from reaching the heights that he could have possibly reached as a quarterback. But does that mean that JT Daniels will never reach those heights? I think at Rice, this is his last chance. He's going to be at a lower conference, and I think that if JT Daniels can put together a solid season with no injuries, and he's going to be in Conference USA, where the competition is not as stiff, he's probably not going to have as many pass rushes coming after him. I think that if JT Daniels can put together a really solid season at Rice, I think that JT Daniels can still possibly make the NFL and possibly still show that he was a top prospect for a reason. I think that definitely this is JT Daniels' last chance, and he's going to have to show what he can do this year at Rice, or he's never going to be an NFL quarterback. And unfortunately, JT Daniels will never live up to the expectations that were set in front of him coming out of high school. But it's really unfortunate all these things that have happened to JT Daniels. I think he really was a talented quarterback, but it just a lot of things did not go his way. Injuries, entering the portal too many times. I just think that a lot of things went wrong for JT Daniels' career, and I really hope he's able to fix it this year at Rice, and I really hope he'll have a shot to make the NFL so he can have a redemption story and really show the quarterback that he was capable of being out of high school. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below what you think the reasons were for JT Daniels' college career not going out the way it was planned, and whether you think he'll be able to fix his career at Rice. And I'll see you next time.